Imagine a motorcycle so different that its very frame was a giant gas tank. Yes, a 6 inches wide stovepipe running right under your nose while you're cruising at 60 miles per hour. Sounds like science fiction. Nope, meet the 1919 Nimbus Stovepipe, Denmark's answer to why not build a motorcycle that looks like a giant pipe? Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're wheeling a Danish oddball onto the stage. The motorcycle that looks like a boiler pipe fell in love with a grand piano, and they had a very polite Scandinavian baby. I'm Timmy, and this is the 1919 to 1928 Nimbus Stovepipe. If you've ever wondered what happens when vacuum cleaner geniuses build a 4-cylinder shaft drive bike with a fuel tank the size of a cannon barrel, well, I think you're about to find out. Before we dive in, do me a favor, hit subscribe to Timmy Tiny Wheels. I believe your thumb will gain horsepower, and our algorithmic overlords will finally let me ride something that doesn't smell faintly of old petrol and moral compromise. Now, story time. Straight from the road with a little grease under the nails. Here's how this metal myth became real. The year is 1919. The place is Copenhagen, and the company is Fisker and Nielsen, the Nilfisk vacuum cleaner people, led by Peder Andersen Fisker. After building a prototype in late 1918, he put Denmark's first mass-produced motorcycle into motion, and by 1920 reorganized as a limited company to scale production. The name Nimbus wasn't marketing fluff. It means a radiant halo, exactly the aura you need when your fuel tank is also your spine. The bike's nickname came fast, Kakkelovnsrør. Stovepipe, because that huge round backbone doubled as the gasoline tank and looked like it could heat a winter cabin. The early 1920s were a gutsy time to sell a premium machine in Europe's shaky post-war economy. Sales started slow, so Peder Fisker did the sensible, slightly unhinged thing. He raced it. Nimbus machines, often with sidecars, pounded out results in long-distance reliability events, including the 1,300 kilometers Paris to Copenhagen run in 1921 and a first place at the 1922 Berlin-Odense Epic. That win on Sunday, sell on Monday strategy actually worked, because nothing shuts up braggarts like a 4-cylinder that finishes what it starts. Model evolution happened quickly. The first series, later called Type A, carried a leading link front fork. A revised Type B arrived with updated details and a different fork arrangement, trailing links aimed at steadier manners. Behind the scenes, the state got in the way. In 1924, Denmark introduced a sales tax on motorcycles, and the wider recession bit hard. Fisker and Nielsen chose to wind things down. Production was effectively curtailed from 1926, with the stovepipe era closing out by 1928. Total built about 1,252. Rare then, rarer now, exactly the number that triggers late-night auction insomnia. Survivorship? Think hen's teeth in a snowstorm. Estimates for surviving 1919 to 1928, stovepipes hover around 200 to 250 worldwide, with most tucked away in Scandinavia. A 2009 US club flyer once counted roughly 100 worldwide and only 2 in the States. Even broader Nimbus law claims that 2/3 of all Nimbuses, mostly the later Type C, still exist. Danish motorcycles are apparently harder to kill than my neighbor's conspiracy podcast. The engine is an inline-4 of 746C, about 45.5 cubic inches, air-cooled 4-stroke with an inlet-over exhaust, F-head IOE valve layout. Output in period trim sat around 8 to 10 horsepower. On paper that sounds meek, on the road it's torque-rich and silken. With a sidecar hitched, the bike would do roughly 85 kilometers per hour, 53 miles per hour. Solo, you could tickle 100 kilometers per hour, 65 miles per hour, if the wind was feeling charitable. I think the real magic is how smoothly it pulls from low revs. It's a gentleman that doesn't mind hauling luggage. Transmission and drive show the car-like thinking that set Nimbus apart. Engine and gearbox live in a single unit, unusual back then, feeding a 3-speed box with a multiplate wet clutch. Shifting? By hand lever at the tank. Final drive? A tidy shaft to the rear wheel. That means no oily chain tattoo on your trousers and fewer roadside lessons in profanity. The chassis is the party trick everyone remembers. Up top is that giant cylindrical backbone that doubles as the fuel reservoir, about 6 inches across, running from bars to saddle in a straight shot. Underneath, pressed steel sections form a cradle for the motor. The result looks industrial, almost architectural, and beautifully works. Up front, the Type A used a leading link-sprung fork. Type B adopted trailing links for calmer steering. At the rear, a swinging arm brought genuine suspension at a time when many bikes still beat you like a rented mule. It's one of the reasons these things earned a reputation for comfort, especially with a sidecar. Brakes? Let's be honest, modest drums and plenty of engine braking. Plan ahead and leave heroics to the jazz musicians. Wheels were spoked, period sizes with narrow rubber. You danced with traction instead of wrestled it. As for size, period figures point to a wheelbase around 1,400 millimeters, 4 feet 7 inches, and a dry weight in the 135 to 150 kilograms range, or about 300 to 330 pounds. Add a sidecar and you're easily into 250 kilograms, approximately 551 pounds. The mythic name Nimbus fits halo, cloud, a hint of divine mischief. Period Publicity loved the smoothness. Some say you could balance a coin on the engine at idle, and I believe someone tried it before coffee. There are tales of outlandish ads. Think feats of strength to suggest towing power, and famous photos of women confidently riding them. A wink from the 1919 press that the bike was civilized enough for anyone. By 1928, the curtain fell on the original run. Fisker and Nielsen pivoted back to what paid the bills, and later returned with the Type C in the 1930s. The Stovepipe had been a bold prototype turned production, a limited numbers experiment that proved you could make a 4-cylinder tourer for a small market and keep your engineering dignity intact. When collectors whisper Grail, this is the kind of machine they mean. All right, wallets out. In period, the Nimbus was priced like a small car in Denmark. Contemporary commentary pegged it about it as a Ford Model T. In the mid-1920s, a new Model T could be had for around $290, which works out to roughly $5,000 to $6,000 in today's dollars. Danish buyers were likely staring at something on the order of Danish kroner, 3,800 to 4,500 for a Nimbus when new. That steep positioning helps explain the low production total of approximately 1,252 units across 1919 to 1928. Auction high watermarks underline the cult status. On April 22, 2018, a 1923 Nimbus 746cc4 Type A sold at Bonham, Stafford for £55,200 sterling, about $77,600 at the time, setting a model benchmark in the process. In January 2017, a 1926 Nimbus Model B made $40,250 at Bonham's, Las Vegas. Those are big numbers for a bike that once shared garage space with vacuum cleaners, and they came with public receipts. If you've ever wanted a motorcycle that defied its decade, with a cylindrical backbone, a civilized hum, and a resume that makes couch experts fidget, the 1919 to 1928 Nimbus Stovepipe is your conversation starter. I think it's one of those machines that makes you ride farther than planned and talk longer than intended. And that, friends, is the best kind of expensive.